My name is Eric Bass, and I am in the band Shinedown. In the last 10 years, I have learned quite a few things, actually. I was told to talk about one of them, or maybe not learned, so to speak, but I have talked about my experiences in the past 10 years, what my favorite experience is. I'll have to break this up into sections, I guess. Professionally, people always ask, what's your favorite show? What's the one show that sticks out in your mind? And I always say it doesn't matter the size of the venue. It matters what the crowd is like and what kind of energy they're giving back to you. Funny enough, two of my favorites that stick out are both from the UK. My first Download Festival was such a huge thing to be able to look out at a sea of people like that, see them jumping up and down for your music, for something you recorded, for something that you made and wrote, is probably one of the most professionally humbling experiences I've ever had. Conversely, another one of my favorite shows we ever played was the first time we ever came over to the UK, and we played in a small club called King Tut's Wawa Hut in Glasgow, Scotland, for maybe 200 people. It was one of those situations where the PA just only had the vocals coming out of it, maybe vocals and kick drum. It's a really small venue. But I just remember that crowd being so electric. And we'd just come from the States where we had been playing arenas, and we marched right into this small venue. And it felt like home. And one of my favorite memories of the past 10 years. On the other side of my professional life in producing and engineering, there are a couple there too. The first thing that I was ever tapped to produce for Shinedown was a song called Diamond Eyes, and we did it largely on the road. Other than the drums and main guitar stuff, we did everything else on tour, and it was quite an experience to do that, and then to have the song have the success that it had was very gratifying. And then producing the entire Attention record on the other end of that, realizing that I needed to do that, and not taking a single day off from the time we started till the time we were done, and just laser focused on getting it finished, was an amazing experience as well, and taught me a lot about myself and a lot about my bandmates. Most of them good. So that's professionally, last 10 years. Those are some of the highlights. Personally, my personal life in the last 10 years, having the marriage that I have with my wife Kelly. There was a time about 10 years ago where I was not the best husband in the world, and we were going through a lot of shit, and we had to sort of re-find ourselves, even if that's a word, refined. I don't think refined is a word. We had to find ourselves again. We've been together a long time, and so us navigating our way back to where we are now, I would have to say is probably the most satisfying thing that I've had occur in the last 10 years. And right now, being in the place that we are, where there's no doubt, there's no trust issues, there's it's about as solid a marriage as you can imagine having, and so that's extremely gratifying. And then lessons I've learned over the past 10 years, and when this was brought up that we were going to be talking about this, I think the thing that sticks out most to me is realizing how, and I'm going to try to not make this sound like a lesson, but is realizing how easy it is for human beings, for us to fall into the trappings of where we grow up, the small towns we come from, even if it's not a small town, if you never get outside of your city. And really learning what a large world it is out there, but on a personal level. It's really easy for us to criticize others because we don't understand where they came from, who they are, because they don't live inside of our bubble. And one of the biggest blessings I've had as a musician is being able to have meet and greets every day with our fans and seeing people from all races, all walks of life, all genders, everything, and putting a human face to and personality to those things, and you realize how little those things matter at the end of the day. That we are all very, very close to each other. We are all we're all attached by something greater than ourselves. And that gets lost when you just live inside of your own echo chamber. And being able to see the actual humanity has been one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given. And the fact that whereas when I was younger, I might have had these ideals and these certain set of values that not all bad, but certain set of values that I carried with me everywhere. And then to have some of those things deconstructed, because I was able to see someone else's perspective and gain empathy for different people and what they've been through or what they are going through now, and shift my way of thinking is real growth. And that's something that I would have never gotten had it not been for Shinedown and had it not been for our fans. And I continue to learn every day. I'm humbled every day by it. And so thank you all. That's the gift that you've given back to me. We often hear that fans thank us for the music and thank us for helping them and saving their lives. And that's the gift that I've been given by our fans. And it actually gives me, I'm trying not to get too emotional about it because it's something that I just find remarkable, especially in this age of Twitter and Instagram and people screaming at each other because they're right and someone else is wrong. And when you have the opportunity, like I said, to meet people not in an echo chamber, in the real world, different walks of life, I've always loved that about our fan base, that I can walk into a meet and greet and meet a transgendered woman, a gay couple, a conservative Second Amendment supporter. And they're all standing next to each other in this meet and greet. And they're all there for one thing. They're all there because they love our music. And you really get to see how the world should be at a Shinedown show. And so that's probably the most important thing that I've had happen over the last 10 years. And one last thing, the fact that we're all still alive and we're all here, the 4 members of this band. And because with the way things are, for us personally, that was touch and go maybe for a little while. And as much as we annoy each other, I was annoyed walking in here to do this, actually. It's our last day off of our entire record cycle, and somebody found work for me to do. But I'll always say this: I'd rather have work being made for me to do than dealing with drug issues or depression issues or all that stuff. So it's a good day when the worst thing you have to do is with work, I guess. So there you go. I'm Eric Bass. I'm from Shinedown. I didn't want to be here, but I did it anyway.
What's going on, everyone? Barry Kirch from the band Shinedown here, the drummer for the band Shinedown. We were asked to do this kind of an impromptu look back on 10 years and what we've learned in the past 10 years. And when I was asked to do this, I got very nervous because I don't ever really look back. I look at pictures and see memories, but I'm not one to look back, and I'm always looking forward at what's the next thing, what do we have to do next, and what do we have to do next. So when initially asked this question, I was like, oh, damn, that's heavy. And in some cases it is, because myself and Shinedown have gone through so much in the past 10 years. And when I started to process it in my brain, what's gone on, what are you thinking about, it was a flood of great moments and not so great moments, and sad moments, and happy moments, and things. I think mainly I've learned generally to be a better person. Not that I've ever been a bad person, but I think as you age, you gain wisdom and you gain maybe a little bit more patience with those around you. And it's no surprise to all of you that Shinedown tour is extremely heavy and we're away from our families and things like that. But when you tour heavy, like we do and some other bands do, you're on top of each other all the time. And your band mates and your crew, my brothers in the band, you fight like siblings sometimes. And I think over the years we've gotten better at coming to terms with that and actually speaking to each other and dealing with each other's issues. And then I look back and I go, damn it, 10 years ago we were finishing the tour of Sound of Madness. We had just recorded a live at Kennewick, Washington show. We did, the beginning of Sound of Madness, which was just over 10 years ago. We were playing a small club in Far, Texas, where I think we were playing to basically the bartenders and the staff. And to see Sound of Madness at the end 10 years ago become what it was, and pretty much gave this band a second life, is still such an important thing. And I think looking at that and then realizing we did Sound of Madness, we did Amaryllis, we did Threat to Survival, we did Attention in 10 years, not to mention the live stuff and everything else and the acoustic stuff. But 4 major records, even though one was released, let's say 11. Here's what I've learned. You have to work hard. And sometimes you don't work smart. And sometimes you trust too much. But as long as you do the number one and work hard, and I think you can be honest with yourself and go, am I truly working hard? For those of you out there going, I work really hard, but I'm not getting anywhere. In whatever you want to do. Maybe you're not working hard enough. So I've learned that. And I continue to push myself, and our band continues to push ourselves, and we push each other to continue to work harder, get better at our craft, get better at songwriting, get better at things. That's one thing I've learned. I've learned patience with my band guys. We know what Brent's gone through. We know what Eric goes through. We know that we have to deal with those things. And sometimes you can't have that kind of patience, and you get frustrated because you want to help and you can't. I'm not a psychologist. I don't have the tools to help, but I'm a friend and a brother, and I use that to help. And I have love and empathy. So patience. I guess the old saying, patience is a virtue. Thirdly, I've learned, and most importantly, what love truly is. In the last 10 years, I had my daughter Stella. That's true love. That's above anything else. That's something you die for. That's something I would do anything for. And, the band has grown in that way that, some of us have kids. And that love is undeniable. And I'm a proud father, and I'm proud of her and who she's becoming, and I hope to guide her further on in this life, which is not a normal life. We don't live normal. Not that it's not a great life, it's a wonderful life. It's a tough life. I'm never home for my wife and my daughter. But it's a good life. And I've learned a lot out here, and the wisdom I learned by traveling the world and seeing the world, I can pass on to now the most precious thing in my life. Number 4, I still haven't learned how to pack a suitcase. I still overpack to this day. And I thought after 10 years, 20 years of touring, but even in the past 10 years, could I learn how to pack a freaking suitcase? I can't. I overpack. It's ridiculous. Number 5, I've gotten to see more of this world than I ever thought I would as a child in the past 10 years. We didn't really start coming over to Europe and the UK or traveling outside of the United States until 10 years ago. Now I've gotten to see a lot of Europe and a lot of the UK, and I've gotten to go to Australia, Japan, South America, Alaska, which is in the US, but not a lot of people get to go to Alaska. Hawaii, same thing. Canada. And I want to see so much more, and I think this band will. I'm addicted to it. I love it. I love to tour. I love to see new places. I love to try new food. That being said, overall, looking back on 10 years, the positives always outweigh the negatives, and I hope that's the same in your lives. There's going to be good days, bad days. Make the bad days good days when you can. And we'll continue doing those. Shinedown is going to be here for another 10, and then another 10, and then another 10. As many years as we can do this, because we enjoy it, we love each other, and we love doing this. And I love doing this, and I love this band. I hope your 10 years was great. I hope you can look back on it fondly. I know I do, even though it's really hard for me to look back. Here's to the next 10.
Hi, I am Zach Myers and I play guitar in the band Shinedown. And the last 10 years, 10 at the start of the decade, we did our first arena tour. So 10 years later, I'm definitely thankful to be still in that position to play larger spaces when we'd like to, and then we can kind of fluctuate how we want. But I remember doing our first arena tour, scared to death, hoping that people would come and show up and see us, because we had just released this album that had kind of changed the landscape of what we had done, called The Sound of Madness, and we were, a machine at this point. We had been touring for so long, and we did 447 shows on this album cycle. So to be finally like in arenas, when we had been a club and small theater band for so long was really special to me. And 10 years later, we still get to do it, and we still like each other, which is something that's pretty nice. And now at the end of the decade, we are 967 shows, and that's with taking 2011 and 2014 off, but of touring. I think that if I've learned anything in the last 10 years, it's that communication is important in a band, the most important thing in a band. People will tell you, being in a band is like a marriage, tripled or quintupled, depending on how your band is set up. But communication, I think, is the key to that. I think that us communicating with each other through good or bad is what's kind of kept this bond really tight, even when we have bad days with each other. It's something that we still love doing, and 10 years later, and how many records have we done since Sound of Madness? 3 albums since Sound of Madness, which came out in, I guess now it'll be 11 years ago. But yeah, so it's touring this much in that amount of time with 3 other adult people who have their own personalities and their own thought-word feelings about things and how they want things to go or what have you. When you communicate with each other, it becomes a level playing field, and you can really talk about these things and get them out. So I think in the last 10 years, I've learned that communication is the key to keeping a band together, and I've learned that to work hard, be the hardest worker in the room, and be honest with people, be honest with fans, be honest with, your people and the people who support you. We've never written songs about things that didn't come from us. We've never written story songs about someone else, or made up. It's all personal, and I think that's why our connection with our fans is so heavy, and that's why we do the things that we do. So I think in the last 10 years, I've learned that, again, communication is key, and that's with everyone. That's with your fans too. So it's been an amazing 10 years, and I don't know how much of it I would trade, if any of it, and hopefully we can have a lot more decades together.
Let's do this. So, what has the last 10 years of the last decade been like for me? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you some stuff I've learned. Probably the biggest thing is I've learned to trust my gut. I've learned that a lot of times you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. I've always said that I do my best to be the hardest worker in the room. and I surround myself with people that have the same mentality. Something that a lot of people would not know about me unless I said it right now is that going back to the beginning of this last decade, the band was in a situation where we had to part ways with some people for the benefit of all sides, all parties. I think there was an actual moment in time where, it wasn't so much about the music anymore. It wasn't so much about the relationship. It was about making sure that people survived. So I think back to the entire process of Sound of Madness, and when a lot of people, in the music industry, certain journalists did, what have you, just did not believe that the band was going to carry on. And then upon the release of the Sound of Madness and everything that record stood for, because that record was made with blood, sweat, and tears. But you move forward into this, and you look at records like Amaryllis, and then you move forward and you look at Threat to Survival, and then you move forward and you look at Attention, Attention. I've learned also that I am the luckiest man in the world to know not only Barry Kirch, but to know Zach Myers and to know Eric Bass. And me and Barry have been with each other for the better part of 20 years now, but I am so grateful for Eric and Zach. I am. And I know Barry is too, because had it not been for these two individuals, the band wouldn't have continued. And in a place and time where everything was against us, in walked these two incredible guys. And they were fearless. They were absolutely fearless. They were respectful of the people that had been here before them, but they knew they had been brought to this band for a reason. And in a lot of ways, for me and Barry, they really saved what Shinedown, became. Don't get me wrong, the work element of everything and the amount of shows that we do, the amount of shows we played in the last 10 years, the arguments, the fights, those were all essential, because I'm going to tell you right now, all of the amazing moments outweigh the negative, hands down. And I thought about this for a minute before I sat down, but I could go on and on about all these different moments in the last 10 years. But here's the thing. I'm looking forward to the next 10 years, and the next, and the next, and so on and so forth. However long I am given breath in my lungs, that I can stand up, that I have all my wits about me, that I can keep my body strong, my voice strong, I will go forward with these three gentlemen as long as they'll have me. Because in a lot of ways, all of our families, internally, our family on the road, all of our family out there, I think that we're stronger now than we've ever been. And I'm not just saying that, because the reality is that we're never ever going to be complacent. We're never going to allow each other to phone it in, because when you break it all down, everything that happens in society and everything that the world takes from us, that we happily give to them if they want to know about us, we're an open book. It completely. But I will say this, if it wasn't for the fan base allowing us to be ourselves, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And in the same breath, they allow us to be who we are, and we want them to be who they are. You know, it's been a wild ride this last decade. I'm looking forward to many more wild rides because that's the beauty of it. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's not supposed to be clean. You know, it's supposed to be edgy. It's supposed to be bumpy. You know, if it was perfect and it was pretty and it was all glossed over, it wouldn't be that interesting. You want to see the personality. You want to see the effort. You want to see the compassion, the love, and you definitely want to see the attitude. So I would say that the last 10 years has been a growing process for me. I've always got my eyes and my ears open at all times. But it's all about the story, and it's all about creating the story, and being very honest about it. So in the words of Miles Davis, I'm going to finish this out with, if you're going to tell a story, tell it with some attitude.
Trust me.